Thanks for clicking. Welcome back to Turtle Island North. Today we're looking at MSM coverage of the Conservative Convention in Calgary this weekend to decide whether the leader stays or goes. As the interview goes on, you'll see something obvious. I'll give the host credit for stepping outside his comfort zone, but in this clip, the tension is clear. The host tries to steer the conversation to a certain narrative, and the Conservative MPs are not having it. Let's take a look.
Off here at the convention with two members of Pierre Poilievre's caucus. Joining me now is Michelle Rempel-Garner, the MP for Calgary Nose Hill and the Conservative critic for Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship, and Adam Chambers. He is the MP for Simcoe, Northern Ontario, and the Conservative critic for International Trade. It's good to see you both.
It's awesome. Thanks for being in Calgary. It's warm here.
It's good. It is a heck of a lot warmer. That Chinook weather is lovely. Well, Michelle Rempel-Garner, let's start with you because well, you have the home field advantage as a Calgary MP. What do you expect to hear from your leader tonight? What do you think the people who are not already committed Conservatives need to hear from Pierre Poilievre?
Well, I think he's going to talk a lot about his love for Canada, some of the principles and policies that we're putting forward to make life more affordable for Canadians. And, I think re-emphasize all of the points that has broadened our voter coalition over the last year. And I think that will continue to grow going forward. It's what you're hearing on the floor here. It's what you're hearing from delegates, and there's a lot of energy in the room.
How do you think he has to address, Michelle, the issue of Alberta separation as it's bubbled up this week, right? Because it sideswiped the First Ministers a little bit. What do you think we're going to hear from your leader?
Well, it's not a surprise to any Alberta MP. Mm-hmm. I mean, the reason why I run as a Conservative, one of the many, is because you haven't seen this type of unity crisis under a Conservative government. I was a Stephen Harper cabinet minister, and we always thought about how to bring regions together. The question you asked for me is really one for Mark Carney. Mm-hmm. The reason why you're hearing this type of sentiment is because there are a lot of people in Alberta who feel that over the last decade, the federal Liberal government has pitted Alberta against the rest of the country to the detriment of our national unity. So I think it's something that the Liberal government, Prime Minister Carney, has to take seriously. And for me, my job as an Alberta MP is to raise some of the concerns that are coming forward. If we're going to have a positive, united Canada that's sovereign, a strong Alberta means a strong Canada, and that's something that they have to talk about.
So, Adam Chambers, I've only been in Calgary for a few hours, but the Conservatives we spoke with coming in here and around and leading up to this, they expect a pretty good number in the vote for your leader tonight. We'll get to that in a second, but what do you think we're going to hear from him? Not for the delegates here who are very happy with Pierre Poilievre, but to the rest of the country that are paying attention to your leader's next move.
Sure, like Michelle, I would expect a strong, love for Canada speech, but let's remember one of the things that brought Pierre to great heights and success was the fact that he was constantly focused on speaking about the issues that people care about. Mm-hmm. Yep. Leading up into the next election, the past election, Conservatives ran the table on housing, on crime, on affordability, on spending, and on taxes. And that's the reason why we had been doing very, very well, and because we were speaking about those issues. Those were the issues that Pierre brought forward. I expect him to continue to focus on those issues that people care about, because that's the path to a winning election in the next time it comes.
Look, there's no question of all the national leaders in Canada, he sees on that issue set first, foremost, and most profoundly, and for whatever reason, the Trudeau Liberals did not respond to it. But it's the Kearney Liberals now, and they are not as slow to react to it, whether you agree with the policy, but they are speaking about it.
Acknowledging
they are slow. Well, they're acknowledging it, they're speaking to it.
Yeah, but that's
right?
not action.
Okay.
I mean, like a can of coffee is $33. Rent is high.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, they're not on it. They're not taking action. And what you're hearing tonight, and the reason why our movement is so strong, is that people expect action on these core issues. It is the promise of Canada. So, you're talking about what you're going to hear from Pierre. It's what we heard in the House of Commons this week, saying, look, it's the song, a little less talk, a little more action, right? And that's what we want to see out of the Liberals.
But where I was going with it, Adam Chambers, is that the issue set has evolved beyond that since the election of Donald Trump, right? And we saw that in the last election. I mean, how do we expect, what do you want to hear from your leader on that one? Because it's a tough one. The Prime Minister gets the benefit of success with Trump or intransigence from Trump because it benefits him because of his position. How do you deal with the foreign policy issues? How does he deal with that tonight?
Sure, there's no question. You have to talk about the president. Mm-hmm. But I would say, if that's the only thing that we talk about as a country, we will be doing ourselves a disservice. We had issues to deal with as a country before the president won the election. We will have plenty of issues to deal with after the president is the president, that if we don't work on today, we will not have a strong, sovereign, united country. You've heard some of the concerns that Michelle has talked about, national unity. You know, if we don't get housing right, if we don't get crime right, if we don't get the taxation system right, our country's going to be, it's going to be difficult to raise a family, to live affordably. You see young people leaving the country. There's been a number of high-profile stories of entrepreneurs, young individuals who've built a business, and where do they go? They go south. I mean, we got to make sure we're creating a country here that people want to live and want to stay in. And I think, you know, if we just focus on the president, we can't ignore him. There's no question. But if we just focus on him, I think we'll do ourselves a disservice in the long run.
But it's a yes and, though, thing, isn't it, Michelle Rempel-Garner, that you have to obviously focus on. The challenge of generational fairness is a profound one. I got 2 young boys. I want them to have the life I had or better, right? And it's something premiers, mayors, city councilors also have to get a bit more in the game on. But the foreign policy challenges the country is facing are pretty seismic, right? And the Conservatives need to offer a path on that, too.
I look at it differently. I think the Liberals really want the ballot question, whenever the next election may come, to be the current American president. And that's because, you talk about your kids. There are reasons why we're questioning if they're going to have the same path to prosperity that you do. Sure. And a lot of those reasons lie in a decade of failed Liberal policies, but also a lack of action that we've seen from Prime Minister Mark Carney over the last year. You know, he ran on a campaign to to build at a speed we've never seen before in Canada. Well, where's the building? So, you know, for me, yes, you're right. Like, we have to talk about Canada's place in the world, but how are we building up Canada's military? Where's the action on trade? When are we putting a pipeline in the ground, or a shovel in the ground on a pipeline for energy security and energy sovereignty? So it's our job to make sure that those questions are being raised, that the government's being held to account, and that we're proposing, you know, common sense solutions to also address those issues and inspire Canadians as a government in waiting.
You've got to hand it to the MP from Calgary. Both held their own, but especially Calgary. What are your thoughts? Like, comment, and subscribe. Turtle Island North. Facts over feelings.